Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Mormon Atheist. Today is March 2nd, 2026, and we are on our second episode of the day. This is episode 22, chapter 20. All right, so apostates, we are reading William Morgan's book, Illustrations of Masonry. We are on page 98. Okay. We are on section second, and we are going to hopefully finish out this book, maybe possibly in this episode. So let's get right to it. Congregation, like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And let's get going with this. Let's try to finish out this book. So, all right, here we go. Page 98, section second. What does a Master's Lodge represent? Answer: the Sanctum Sanctorum, or Holy of Holies, of King Solomon's temple. Okay, so think Mormonism with your Mormon hats on, Holy of Holies, right? We know what that is. It's above all the temples, Holy of Holies. That's it's a representation of King Solomon's temple. So in Mormonism, all of the temples, if you look at them, not all of them, but most of them, especially the older ones, their shape, right, is in the shape of the Temple of Solomon's. And their shape is in the Temple of Solomon, right? And there's the treaties of the treaties, the testaments, the Bible. There's many references to the dimensions of the Temple of Solomon. Okay. All right. So, how long was the temple building? Answer: 7 years, during which it rained not in the daytime, that the workmen might not be obstructed in their labor. What supported the temple? Answer: 1,453 columns and 2,906 pilasters, all hewn from the finest Parian marble. What further supported it? Answer: 3 grand columns or pillars. What were they called? Answer: wisdom, strength, and beauty. Remember in the previous episodes when we talk about how what these mean, right? What did they represent? Here we go. Answer: the pillar of wisdom represented Solomon, king of Israel, right? Now, in light of the Epstein records or the Epstein files and the Erica Kirk stuff and the whole Zionist plan, all that kind of stuff, how Masonic it all is, right? And when you put in the Zionist aspect of this, right? King Solomon's temple, right? The Masonry, right? King of Israel, right? Okay, well, if you go to the Bible and you look at the Bible, and if you actually read the Bible as a book, right, you will know that God only follows, or God only protects the descendants of Jacob. Jacob's nickname is Israel. Okay, it's not a land. There's no land named Israel. Israel is Jacob's nickname, and it's literally in the Bible. Like, it's in the Bible. And so Solomon, king of Israel, right? You know, is there any evidence of King David, King Solomon the Freemason, Knights Templars. Is there any evidence of any of these people, any of this stuff? It doesn't exist. This stuff does not exist. Okay. And so, anyways, let's keep going. Whose wisdom contrived the mighty fabric, the pillar of strength, Hiram, king of Tyre? Okay, now in the Bible, who is the king of Tyre? Okay, who strengthened Solomon in his glorious undertaking? The pillar of beauty, Hiram Abiff, the widow's son, whose cunning craft and curious workmanship beautified and adorned the temple. How many were there employed in the temple of kings? How many were employed in the building of King Solomon's temple? Answer: 3 grand masters, 3,300 masters or overseers of the work, 80,000 fellow crafts, and 70,000 entered apprentices. All those were classed and arranged in such a manner by the wisdom of Solomon, that neither envy, discord, nor confusion were suffered to interrupt that universal peace and tranquility that pervaded the work at the important period. I mean, think of that, apostate congregation. Okay, that's a lot of people right there, right? Okay, so how many constitutes an entered apprentice lodge? Answer: 7. 1 master and 6 entered apprentices. Okay. Think Mormonism. In all of the beginning stories that we read, they all talk about how there was originally 6 members of the Mormon church, right? Where did they usually meet? Answer: on the ground floor of King Solomon's temple. How many constitute a fellow crafts lodge? Remember what the fellow crafts are, right? Those are the magicians. Earlier in the book, in earlier episodes, we go through and explain that, okay? So the craftsmen, the fellow crafts, the craft, that is the magic of Solomon. The craftsmen are the magicians, right? So we're dealing with Solomonic magic. How many constitute a fellow crafts lodge? Answer: 5. 2 masters and 3 fellow crafts. Where did they usually meet? Answer: in the middle chamber of King Solomon's temple. Okay, now think of our temples, right? Think of the Masonic temples. There's 3 layers, right? Your enter apprentice, the craftsman, and the master masons, right? How many how many constitute a master's lodge? Answer: 3 master masons. Where did they usually meet? Answer: in the Sanctum Sanctorum, or Holy of Holies, in King Solomon's temple. It's the top floor, right? Have you any emblems on this degree? Answer: we have several, which are divided into 2 classes. What are the first class? Answer. Okay, now this is very important because we're going to get into some symbolism right here, okay? So, have you any emblems on this degree? Answer: we have several, which are divided into 2 classes. What are the first class? Answer: the pot of incense, the beehive, the book of constitutions. What did they call the original book of commandments, right? They called it the book of commandments, the book of constitutions, right? Guarded by the Tyler's sword, the sword of Laban, right? The sword pointing to a naked heart, the all-seeing eye, the anchor and arc, the 47th problem of Elucid, EUCLID, the hourglass, the Scythe, SCYTHE, and the 3 steps usually delineated on the master's carpet, which are thus explained. The pot of incense is an emblem of a pure heart, which is always an acceptable sacrifice to the deity, and as this glows with fervent heat, the burning in the bosom, so should our hearts continually glow with the gratitude to the great and beneficent author of our existence for the manifold blessings and comforts we enjoy. The beehive is an emblem of industry. Wow, Utah. Okay. I mean, the beehive state, right? The beehive is an emblem of industry and recommends the practice of the virtue to all created beings. What does Mormonism teach, right? Remember, we are talking about an 1827 book, Illustrations of Freemasonry, okay? So, I mean, it's incredible. It's absolutely incredible, right? From the highest seraph in heaven, okay, it's SERAPH, seraph in heaven, to the page 100, lowest reptile of the dust. It reaches us that as we come into the world rational and intelligent beings, so we should ever be, okay, we're still talking about the beehive here, right? Shall we ever be industrious ones, never sitting down, content while our fellow creatures around us are in want. What is Mormonism all about, right? It's all about the work. You have to continue the work. This is why it's not compatible with Christianity. Okay, the Mormons, LDS Christians are donating this. They're doing everything they can to assimilate Christians into Mormonism. They're not trying to become Christians. They're trying to make Christians Mormons. Do you understand? You do understand that, right? Okay. But that's why it'll never be compatible, because Jesus did the work. Well, otherwise, why did he die? Why, he did the work. He died for our sins. He did the work. That's the difference between Mormonism and Christianity. In Mormonism, we have to continue the work. That's why it's another testament of Jesus Christ, right? The work is not finished. That is like probably the number one reason why Mormonism and Christianity will never be compatible, because Jesus did the work. The work has been done. The work is already done. He did the work and was crucified for it. So in Mormonism, the work is not finished. This is one of the reasons why the Book of Mormon is another testament. The Bible is not complete, right? Okay, when it is in our power to relieve them without inconvenience to ourselves, when we take a survey of nature, we behold man in his infancy, more helpless and indigent than the brute creation. He lies languished for days, weeks, months, and years, totally incapable of providing substance for himself. Right? In Mormonism, you don't know that, in Mormonism, you have your levels of heaven, right? But then the people that go to like hell, like real legit hell, are the people that hear about Mormonism, but still choose to disregard it. That's Mormon hell. Okay. Once you still choose to not believe, once you have heard the word and you choose to not believe the word, that's when you go to hell. Otherwise, you got your levels. Right? So it's the same thing, right? Of guarding against the attacks of the wild beast of the field, or sheltering himself from the inclemencies of the weather. It might have pleased the great creator of heaven and earth, to the man-made independent of all other beings, but as dependence is one of the strongest bonds of society, okay, think of the Enochian order, right? The communistic order of Mormonism in the 1830s and 40s, right? Mankind were made dependent on each other for protection and security. Okay, they're literally talking about socialism, communism type stuff, right? As they thereby enjoy better opportunities of fulfilling the duties of reciprocal love and friendship. And you can also take this into today, what they're kind of trying to do in the world today, right? This is all this Zionist bullshit stuff that they're pushing on everybody, right? Thus was man formed for social and active life, the noblest part of the work of God. And he that will so demean himself as not to be endeavoring to add to the common stock of knowledge and understanding, right? Don't think. Don't think. May be deemed a drone in the hive of nature. Don't fucking think, okay? Only listen to what we say, right? A useless member of society and unworthy of our protection as Masons, okay? If you think for yourself, you're not a Mason. The Book of Constitutions, guarded by the Tyler sword, reminded us that we should be ever watchful and guarded in our thoughts, words, and actions. What is the Doctrine and Covenants, right? Remember, before it was called the Doctrine and Covenants, it was called the Book of Commandments, right? Our thoughts, words, and actions, particularly when before the enemies of Masonry, right? Before the enemies of Mormonism, right? Ever bearing in remembrance those truly Masonic virtues, those truly Mormon virtues, silence and circumspection, silence and circumspection. The sword pointing to a naked heart, right? We're going to kill you if you talk, the blood oaths, right? Demonstrates that justice will sooner or later overtake us. And although our thoughts, words, and actions may be hidden from the eye of man, yet that all-seeing eye whom the sun, moon, and stars obey, and under whose watchful care even comets perform their stupendous revolutions, pervades the inmost recesses of the human heart, and will reward us accordingly, according to our merits. How many times in General Conference have you heard those same exact words? Same words, same exact words right there. The anchor and ark are emblems. Okay, so that was, okay, so now we're going into the anchor and the ark. The anchor and ark are emblems of a well-grounded hope and a well-spent life. They are emblematic of the divine ark, which safely wafts us, WAFTS, over this tempestuous sea of troubles, and that anchor which shall safely moor us in a peaceful harbor, where the wicked cease from troubling, and their weary shall find rest. Page 101. The 47th problem, elucid, EUCLID. This was an invention of our ancient friend and brother. Okay, so this is interesting. So let's hear what this has to say on page 101. The 47th problem of elucid. This was an invention of our ancient friend and brother, the great Pythagoras. Oh, come on, man. Oh, this is so absurd. Okay, apostate congregation. I know that I'm supposed to be staying on focus here and getting through this book, but come on, enough is enough. The entire idea of Freemasonry is to link themselves to the Egyptian pyramids in any way, shape, form, or fashion, okay? At the time, the Egyptian stuff was hot, man. It was, the pyramids, stuff's being discovered, the mummies, like you can Google this stuff, back in the, for fuck's sake, man. Literally every religion is trying to link themselves to the Egyptian pyramids. Okay, well, if you read Herodotus and shit like that, Diodorus, I know I don't talk about this stuff much on this channel, on any channel really, but if you read these books, Herodotus, Diodorus, these kinds of things, they talk about the pyramids. Herodotus is writing in 500 BC. Okay, he's telling you about the pyramids. Diodorus is writing in 79 BC. He's telling you about the pyramids. He never mentions any fucking Freemasons. They do talk about the stone cutters and the stonemasons, but under no circumstances are they talking about Freemasons, okay? Or any Knights Templar or any of that. It's not a thing, okay? These stories don't start coming about until like the late 1600s. It's all made up. It's all bullshit. Even most of the 1600s stories are even made up because the anti-Masonic literature is telling you this stuff. Okay, so for these meatballs to be saying that, our ancient friend and brother, the great Pythagoras, are you fucking kidding me, man? Come on. Freemasons, even today, right now, modern day Freemasons, if you watch Ralph Ellis, if you watch, there's a whole bunch of people. They don't know where Freemasonry came from. They don't know the origin story of Freemasonry. William Morgan in 1827 is legit telling you they're creating Freemasonry. It does not exist. There's no such thing as Freemasonry. As we know it today, it does not exist. Is what William Morgan is talking about is a religious institution called Freemasonry, the Church of Masonry. Okay? So it's all made up. It's all smoke and mirrors. It's all bullshit. Okay? And you know, the 47th problem of elucid. Okay, this was an invention of our ancient friend and brother. So now they're saying that Pythagoras invented this problem of elucid by our great ancient friend and brother. So let's keep reading and see what Pythagoras has to say and do with this. Okay, the 47th problem of elucid. This was an invention of our ancient friend and brother, the great Pythagoras, who, in his travels through Asia, Africa, and Europe, was initiated into several orders of priesthood and raised to the sublime degree of a master mason. Wow, did any of you know Pythagoras was a master mason? I mean, we're breaking news. This is breaking news. Every historian on the planet right now should be like, whoa, the fucking Mormon atheist just broke news. Pythagoras was a master mason. How did we not know this, congregation? How did we not know this? Oh man, you can't, I mean, all right, let's keep going. The wise philosopher enriched his mind abundantly in a general knowledge of things, and more especially in geometry or masonry. Geometry is also masonry. Did you guys know that? I didn't know that. On this subject, he drew out many problems and theorems. And among the most distinguished, he erected this, which, in the joy of his heart, he called Eureka. Oh, Eureka. I could just see Pythagoras right now. Eureka. Oh, what the fuck, man. All right, let's keep going. Eureka. In the Grecian language, no less. Okay, it's in the signifying, I have found it. Oh, that's making me sweat. It's so funny. I gotta take a drink. Wow, I gotta take a drink of water. That's so bananas, congregation. I have found it, and upon the discovery of which he is said to have sacrificed a hecatomb. Hecatomb. So Pythagoras screams out Eureka. He's a master mason, screams out Eureka, and then he sacrifices a hecatomb. Your guess is as good as mine. As a hecatomb, it's probably the same thing as a coulomb. Okay. What is it, a coulomb and a kumar or something like that? In the Book of Mormon? I could just see Joseph Smith writing out the Book of Mormon. Eureka! It's a coulomb! Oh, fuck, man. All right, he sacrificed a hecatomb. It teaches Masons to be general lovers of the arts and science. The hourglass is an emblem of human life Behold! Exclamation point. Once again, Pythagoras, behold. How swiftly the suns run, and how rapidly our lives are drawing to a close. We cannot without astonishment behold the little particulars which are contained in this machine. How many pass away almost imperceptibly, and yet to our surprise, in a short space of an hour, they are all exhausted. Thus wastes man! Exclamation point. Today, he puts forth the tender leaves of hope. Tomorrow, blossoms, and bears his blushing honors thick upon him. The next day comes a frost, which nips the root, and when he thinks his greatness is still ripening, he falls like autumn leaves to enrich our Mother Earth. Wow, that's quite the description of life right there. But you know, everything comes in threes though, right? So you have birth, middle life, and then death, right? So it makes sense. It fits, right? The scythe is an emblem of time, which cuts the brittle bread of life and launches us into eternity. Behold! Exclamation point. What havoc the scythe of time makes among the human race. If by chance we should escape the numerous evils incident to childhood and youth, and with health and vigor come to the years of manhood, yet withal we must soon be cut down by the all-devouring scythe of time, and be gathered into the land where our fathers have gone before us. I mean, that is kind of powerful right there. You know, life is always something to ponder, you know, it's always the three steps usually delineated upon the Mason's carpet are emblematical of the three principal stages of human life: youth, manhood, and age. There you go, right there. In youth, as entered apprentices, okay, so think Mormonism, you're baptized, you're an entered apprentice. So at 8 years old, you're an entered apprentice, okay? We ought industriously to occupy our minds in the attainment of useful knowledge. In manhood, as fellow craft, we should apply our knowledge to the discharge of our respective duties to God, our neighbors, and ourselves. Now remember, in Freemasonry, God is the master mason. Okay, it's not God that we call God, it's the master mason. Okay, our neighbors and ourselves. That's so in age, right? So when you're old, right, you're an old man, as master masons. Okay, so you're putting them together, right? So this is Mormonism. Okay, youth, adulthood, old age, right? So think of that as the stages of Masonry as well. We may enjoy the happy reflections consequent on a well-spent life and die in the hope of glorious immortality. Page 102. We're almost done, congregation. We got one page left, and we're 34 minutes in. We're making good time. As long as I can stay focused, we're smoking right now. Page 102. What are the second class of emblems? Okay. Answer: the spade, coffin, death head, marrow bones, and sprig of acacia, which are thus explained. The spade opens the vault to receive our bodies, which our active limbs will soon molder to dust. The coffin, death head, and marrow bones are emblematical of the death and burial of our Grand Master Hiram Abiff, and are worthy of our serious attention. The sprig of acacia is emblematical of that important part of man which never dies. And when the cold winter of death shall have passed, and the bright summer's morn of the resurrection appears, okay, where the resurrection, we're talking about the resurrection of Hiram Abiff, not Jesus, okay? Remember, this is Masonic. There's no Jesus in this. You have to take your faith out of the Bible when you're talking about Freemasonry. It's required, okay? The Son of Righteousness shall descend and send forth his angels to collect our ransom dust. Remember, we're talking about, so in Freemasonry, it's all about the light, right? We're in search of the light. We're seeking the light. Okay, remember, we're talking about the light in Isaiah, not Revelations. Okay. Do you know the difference between the two? One of them is the morning star, which did weaken the nations. Okay. And what's happening today? He fell, and look at our nations. They're all weak because of what these people are doing today, right? And then what happens? In Revelations, now somebody proclaims they are the morning star. Okay? So these people are following the morning star, the light of Jesus, not the light of Lucifer. The light of Lucifer in the Old Testament is the real light. That is the real light. Jesus in Revelations becomes the light. Okay? So Jesus is Lucifer. Do you understand me? Freemasonry is bypassing Jesus altogether and goes right directly to Lucifer. This is your satanic and Luciferian difference right here. This is the difference between a Satanist and a Luciferian. A Luciferian bypasses the Old Testament totally. Or I mean, the New Testament, I'm sorry. A Luciferian bypasses the New Testament totally because Lucifer is the light in the Old Testament, in Isaiah. Jesus is the light in the New Testament. Freemasonry skips the New Testament and goes right to the Old Testament. So all this shit that you're seeing in the Epstein files and all this stuff, I've been telling you this stuff for 2 years now, this Psalmonic magic element. Okay? This is what we're talking about. You're legitimately witnessing it in the Epstein files. You're witnessing it. You're seeing it with your own eyes. And William Morgan is telling you about it in 1827. The entire anti-Masonic movement. This is why they're against this religious institution called Freemasonry. it directly goes against God and country, because God and country is Christianity, Jesus. Do you understand me? Are you following that line, right? I do a video, the light thread. That is your difference right there. That is what's happening right now. You're Luciferians and you're Satanists, right? Satanists are Christian. You could look at it like this. Satanists are Christian, Luciferian, they're Jews. Look at it like that. Okay. Continuing on. Then, if we are found worthy by his password, we shall enter into the celestial lodge above, where the supreme architect of the universe presides, where we shall see the king in the beauty of holiness, and with him enter into an endless eternity. Is that not Mormonism right there? Here ends the 3 first degrees of Master Masonry, which constitute a Master Mason's Lodge, a Master Mason's Lodge, and a chapter of Royal Archmasons, are 2 distinct bodies, wholly independent of each other. Royal Archmasons and Master Masons. What was Russell M. Nelson? He was a Royal Archmason. Okay, the Mormon temple, the LDS temple, is the Temple of Solomon. It's the fucking Temple of Solomon. Why else would they be on the bloodline list? Right? Okay. The members of a chapter are provided to visit all Master Mason lodges when they please, and may be, and often are members of both at the same time. And all members of a Master Mason's Lodge who are a Royal Archmason, though not members of any chapter, may visit any chapter. Okay, so this is where we get the convolution of when we look up prominent historical figures and we're looking up their lodge numbers, right? And you know, people start arguing, well, they were in that lodge. Yes, but they were a Royal Archmason. So they could go to any lodge, right? As an entered apprentice or a craftsman, you have to go to a specific lodge, right? But once you get so high up, you can go to any one that you want, right? All right, so may visit any chapter. Okay, now here William Morgan is he's going to talk to me and you. Okay, William Morgan is addressing the reader. This is how all these anti-Masonic books are. They're a warning. They're warning us against this religious institution called Freemasonry, which today we call the Mormon Church. Okay, now here he says, William Morgan's talking to me and you, apostates. I wish the reader to understand that neither all Royal Archmasons nor Master Masons are members of either lodge or chapter. They are tens of thousands who are not members and secretly ever attend. Although privileged to do so. Do you understand me? The privileged also attend. What is happening in these Epstein files? Movie stars, rock stars, athletes. I mean, you name it, man. These people are in those files. And it's all Masonic. The whole thing is Masonic. It's all Solomonic magic. A very small portion of Masons, comparatively speaking, ever advance any further than the third degree, and consequently never get the great word which was lost by Hiram's untimely death. Solomon, king of Israel, Hiram, king of Tyre, and Hiram Abiff, the widow's son, having sworn that they nor neither of them would ever give the word except thy three were present. And it is generally believed that there was not another person in the world at the time that had it. Consequently, the word was lost and supposed to be forever. But the sequel will show it was found after the lapse of 470 years. The sequel, the Book of Mormon. Notwithstanding the word Mahabone, Mahhabone, which was substituted by Solomon, still continues to be used by Master Masons. We're on page 103 now. And no doubt will be as long as Masonry attracts the attention of men. And the word which was lost is used by the Royal Arch degree. Okay. Russell M. Nelson was a Royal Arch Mason. What was the word of the Royal Arch degree before they found the Master's word, which was lost at the death of Hiram Abiff? So they made up this fucking word. It's a totally made up word because he says the three people died that knew the word and swore they would never tell the word without all three of them being there. So Hiram Abiff is dead. So once the other two died, the word was lost because the other two can't say it because Hiram Abiff is dead. You understand me? This is where the necromancy comes in. They try to resurrect Hiram Abiff to get the word. That's what the whole thing about the acacia and all, that's what that whole thing is about, congregation. Okay, what was the word which was lost in the death of Hiram Abiff and was not found for 470 years? I don't want to say Book of Mormon, but I'm going to say, I won't do it. I won't say Joseph Smith and Book of Mormon. I won't do it. Were there any Royal Arch Masons before the Master's word was found? I wish some Masonic gentlemen would solve these two questions. The ceremonies, history, and the lecture in the preceding degree are so similar that perhaps someone of the three might have been dispensed with, and the subject well understood by most readers. Notwithstanding, there is a small difference between the work and history, and between the history and the lecture. There's only a small difference. Okay. I shall now proceed with the Mark Master's degree, which is the first degree in the chapter. The Mark Master's degree is past masters, and the most excellent masters are called lodges of Mark Master Masons. Past masters and most excellent masters, yet although called lodges, They are a component part of the chapter. Ask a Master Mason if he belongs to the chapter. He will tell you he does, but that he has only been marked. Okay, now this to me sounds like the very beginnings of what we are today calling Mormon monarch. That's what this is. The Mark Master Masons. Okay, the entire Monarch project was the MK Ultra. That entire thing was started by the Mormons. The Mormon Church had a very heavy hand in that in the 1950s. That's fact. You can look that shit up. Okay. Ask a Mark Master Mason if he belongs to the chapter. He will tell you he does. But he has only been marked. It is not an uncommon thing, but by any means, for a chapter to confer all 4 of the degrees in one night. The Mark Master, Past Master, Most Excellent Master, and Royal Arch degree. And that's where we end. William Morgan's book is not complete. Now you have to wait until 1829 when David Bernard takes William Morgan's book and finishes it where William Morgan left off and adds to it to the appropriate places he left out. David Bernard writes that in the introduction of his book, Light on Masonry, in 1829. So that is the end of all of this. Now, apostates, at the end of this particular edition, this is the legacy prints, okay? There are pictures, and then they have little descriptions, okay? So here is what I'll do. Instead of reading these, I'm just gonna hold them up to the camera, and you can kind of screenshot them and zoom in or whatever. Okay, and then there's that one. And then you can read them for yourself. Sorry if I'm peeking behind the window here, but I can't see the page. All right, there you go. You see that one and get a little closer. Dun, dun, dun. Okay, we'll get that one a little closer. Tells you what that stuff is. Most of it is stuff that we've already gone over in the other episodes, other videos. But just for funsies, I'll show them up here like this. You can screenshot them and blow them up or pause it or whatever you want to do. And that's it. All right, congregation. Thank you, everybody, for liking, subscribing, sharing the content. This channel is not monetized. It will never be monetized. Okay. We are William Morgan. In the words of the late, great Solomon Southwick, the ashes of Morgan will rise again, congregation. And here we are. We are the legion of many. Okay. We are William Morgan. And if you look at the Epstein files and if you put all this stuff together, it's prophetic. William Morgan is literally telling us what's happening today. The entire anti-Masonic movement, okay, was a warning against, they were trying to stop these people, and it failed. So I urge all of you, if you want to know what's coming next, there it is right there, the anti-Masonic movement. That's what it is. This is legit history, apostate congregation. This is not me making up stuff. It's not my theories. the anti-Masonic movement was literally trying to stop the Scottish Rite Freemasons from making a religious institution called Freemasonry. They called it the Church of Masonry. The anti-Masonic movement never ends. David Bernard's book comes out in 1829. Joseph Smith creates the Mormon religion, the Church of Christ, in 1830. The very first anti-Mormon publication was Abner Cole. I believe it was Abner Cole. In 1829, I think his thing was 1829, before Mormon 1830. So this stuff is legit, and they're questioning this person named Joseph Smith from the very start. They're questioning if he's even a real person. If you read Abner Cole's article and you read his subsequent writings, okay, that's not the only thing he wrote, was that satirical article. So I do other videos on that as well. But anyways, I kind of want to take a break. Well, maybe not. Maybe we'll get into Solomon Southwick kind of right away, because I really enjoy Solomon Southwick. He is such a good author. He's such a good author. And he writes in 1827 is the book that I'm going to bring to you guys. But he's writing as early as 1805 against this religious institution called Freemasonry. Okay. So, and he has a lot of writings. He has a lot of books, pamphlets. They're not books, they're pamphlets, leaflets, articles, stuff like that have been compiled into books. But what I'm going to bring you is a legit book. It's 1827, A Solemn Warning Against Freemasonry is the name of the book. Letters to Young Men of the United States is what it is. And we're going to get into names, apostate congregation. We're going to start naming names. So the way Solomon, so for all of you subscribers, okay, I really, and all of you new subscribers especially, thank you for subscribing, by the way, and liking the videos, liking the comments. Thank you for your comments, all that kind of stuff. So anyways, so when we get into Solomon Southwick, I want to warn everybody. Solomon Southwick writes as if you should already know this stuff, okay? So there's not a lot of explanations going on, and the writing gets more, it gets more, like, what's the right word? It gets more hidden meanings. There's more hidden meanings behind it. And so I really urge you to start this series from the light thread, okay? Start this series from the light thread and work your way up to that. I made a playlist that has all of these videos in it. So just, start out at the light thread and then work your way up, because Solomon Southwick, we're going to get into some pretty advanced stuff, okay? And we're going to start naming Smith from Vermont. We're going to start naming Dr. Arvard. We're going to start naming Lodum Lawson, Daniel Wells, Parley P. Pratt. Okay, now remember, there's no Mormonism. This is 1827. Solomon Southwick's book is published. So why is Orson Pratt, Parley Pratt, Orson Hyde, why are these people in this anti-Masonic book, right? So that's a little cliffhanger for you. Who is Smith from Vermont? Who is the hatter? Who is the painter? Who is the lawyer? Okay, who are these people? What is Brigham Young known for? What was Joseph Smith known for? Who is the apron maker? Okay, the lambskin maker. Who is the lambskin apron maker? Okay, we're going to start really getting heavy. So William Morgan's book, Illustrations of Masonry, is the introduction. Okay, we're going to get into Solomon Southwick next, and then David Bernard last, because we're going in chronological order. This book was written in 1826. It was published in 1827. Illustrations of Masonry. The original version was 116 pages long. It is not complete. You have to wait for a period of time for the story to be completed, which is in 1829 by David Bernard. But in between there is Solomon Southwick. And that's who we're going to get into next. So that's a little teaser. As you know, I don't really know how we're going to do it. I don't know. I do pretty well. We get kind of a lot done if I can just stick to the thing and read it and get done with it. It's not too bad, but it's when I get off on these side tangents to start. And on this next book, there's going to be a lot of that because it's very political, very college orientated. Yale, Harvard, Oneida, Dartmouth. These are all, colleges that have something to do with all of this government political stuff, right? All right. Anyways, apostate congregation. Now I'm just kind of rambling on. So this concludes Illustrations of Masonry. Thank you for staying with me for this. And like, subscribe, share, comment, hit the notification bell. We are not monetized. We will never be monetized. This channel is so incredibly suppressed that the only way to get this word out is with your help. So please share the video, comment, like the comments, this is your channel, congregation. We are William Morgan. In the words of the late great Solomon Southwick, the ashes of Morgan will rise again. So here we are, congregation, and I will see you on the other side.